They say a woman was sealed alive inside this castle, and on certain nights, the walls still answer when she cries. High above the quiet village of Pidhirtsi in western Ukraine stands a palace that looks almost too beautiful to be feared. By daylight, Pidhirtsi Castle rises above the surrounding countryside with pale walls, elegant terraces, stone balustrades, and the remains of gardens once designed for nobility. From a distance, it resembles a royal residence lifted from a forgotten painting. But after sunset, the beauty changes. The windows become black. The empty halls carry sounds farther than they should. Cold air moves through rooms with no open doors. And somewhere beneath the castle, beyond the grand chambers and fading portraits, local legend says a woman in white is still searching for the way out. She is known simply as the White Lady. The castle was built between 1635 and 1640 for Crown Hetman Stanislaw Koniec-Polski. It was designed as both a fortress and a luxurious home, a place where defensive walls stood beside richly decorated rooms, art collections, music, and elaborate celebrations. Later, the powerful Rzewuski family made Pidhirtsi one of their great residences. The castle held paintings, weapons, rare furniture, and magnificent chambers known as the Golden Hall, the Chinese Room, and the Knight's Hall. Yet the most famous resident of Pidhirtsi may be a woman whose identity cannot be confirmed. In many versions of the legend, she is called Maria. She is described as young, beautiful, and married to a much older nobleman who owned the castle. Some storytellers identify that man as Wacław Rzewuski. Others attach the crime to another member of the family. The details change from one retelling to the next, but the ending is always the same. The husband became consumed by jealousy. He watched Maria whenever she spoke to a guest. He questioned servants about where she walked, who visited her rooms, and why she sometimes stood alone in the garden. Every smile became evidence. Every silence became a secret. Maria denied betraying him. According to the legend, there was no proof that she had. But jealousy does not need proof. It only needs a frightened mind, willing to turn suspicion into certainty. The nobleman began restricting her movements. Doors that had once opened for her were locked. Servants were ordered not to speak with her unless necessary. Her world grew smaller until the beautiful castle became a prison dressed in gold. Then, one night, she disappeared. There was no public funeral. No body was presented. No grave bearing her name was shown to the villagers. She was simply gone. The darkest version of the story claims that the nobleman ordered Maria to be taken into the castle's underground chambers. There, in a cold passage illuminated by trembling candles, masons had prepared an opening inside a thick stone wall. Maria understood what was about to happen. She begged her husband to believe her. She called upon the servants to help. She promised that if he released her, she would leave the castle forever. No one moved. One stone was placed, then another. The opening narrowed. Her voice became harder to hear as the wall rose between her and the living. By the time the final stone was pushed into place, only part of her face remained visible in the candlelight. The legend says she did not curse her husband. She only told him that for as long as the castle stood, he would never be alone inside it. Then the wall was sealed. For a moment, there was silence, and then came 3 knocks from the other side. The servants were warned never to speak about what had happened. The passage was closed, and life inside the castle continued above it. Musicians played, guests danced, candles burned beneath painted ceilings. But the house had changed. Late at night, Footsteps were heard moving through corridors after every guest had gone to bed. A woman was seen standing at the far end of the gallery, wearing a pale dress that appeared untouched by dust. When approached, she would turn a corner and disappear, even when the corridor beyond had no exit. Others claimed to hear soft crying beneath the floor. The nobleman himself was said to wake to the sound of fingernails scraping against stone near his bedroom. When he ordered the walls inspected, nothing was discovered. But each night, the scratching returned, closer than before. Some versions say a white figure began appearing outside his bedroom door. She never entered. She only stood there with her head lowered, waiting for him to look at her. And when he finally did, he recognized the face he had tried to bury inside the castle. Years passed. Owners changed. Empires shifted. War reached Pidhirtsi. Its treasures were scattered, its rooms damaged. And during the Soviet period, the palace was turned into a tuberculosis sanatorium. A devastating fire during the 20th century destroyed much of its once grand interior. Still, according to local legend, the White Lady remained. Visitors and local residents have continued to repeat stories of a pale woman appearing in corridors, beside windows, and along the castle's park pathways. Some describe an unexplained drop in temperature. Others speak of a distant melody rising from the underground chambers, followed by the unmistakable feeling that someone is standing directly behind them. No reliable evidence proves that a ghost walks through Pidhirtsi Castle. But the absence of proof has never ended the story. In fact, the historical record makes the legend even more disturbing. Wacław Wrzewuski's documented wife was Anna Lubomirska, not Maria. Historical records also describe their family and children, details that do not fit the popular version of a young wife murdered because she could not produce an heir. So who was Maria? Was her name changed as the story passed through generations? Was the White Lady another woman connected to the castle, whose tragedy was later attached to a famous owner? Was the story created to explain strange sounds, missing records, or a sealed section of the underground chambers? Or is the confusion itself part of what happened to her? Perhaps the woman was not only killed, perhaps she was erased. Imagine standing inside Pidhirtsi Castle after darkness falls. The final light disappears from the windows. The rooms settle into silence. Somewhere below, water moves through ancient stone. Then, from the corridor behind you, comes the slow sound of fabric brushing against the floor. You turn around. A woman in white stands beneath the doorway. Her face is pale. Her dress belongs to another century. One hand rests against the wall, as though she can feel something moving inside it. She does not rush toward you. She does not scream. She simply lifts her head and asks one question: "Do you know my name?" Then the corridor is empty. Maybe Pidhirtsi Castle is haunted by the ghost of a murdered woman. Maybe it is haunted by centuries of grief, violence, and forgotten memories gathering inside the same walls. But if the White Lady is only a legend, one mystery remains. Why have generations continued to place her inside this castle? Why does almost every version of her story lead back to a sealed wall? And why, according to those who believe the legend, are 3 knocks sometimes heard from the darkness below? If you enjoyed this journey into one of Ukraine's most haunting legends, subscribe for more carefully researched horror mysteries. And tell me in the comments, if you heard someone knocking from inside a castle wall, would you open it?